If you're like me and you really enjoy playing your Game Boy games, then you'll probably be coming across the problem of having a hand cramp after you play a couple of hours or even about 20 minutes in my case of the Game Boy. The Game Boy Advance is a really comfortable handheld. You've got nice big trigger buttons, you've got the controls either side of the screen, which means you can have your hands in pretty much any orientation that you want, which allows your hands to fit. But even the Game Boy Advance is quite small in my opinion, maybe for my hands anyway. And then the Game Boy Advance SP is even smaller. Now the Game Boy Advance SP does have a front light, but it tends to wash the image out a little bit in my opinion, and looks a little bit faded. They did release the AGS 101, but that tends to go for about £80 to £100 depending on the condition, and that means that if you're going to be spending that much money, you might as well go down this route that I'm going to show you now, which allows you to play your Game Boy games on your television. Now this here is the Game Boy player. This is a peripheral that you plug into the bottom of your GameCube, which allows you to basically play your Game Boy games on your television. Now there's quite a few upsides with this. Obviously you can plug it into your TV and you have a much bigger screen. It also plays stereo sound, and it also means you can have a nice big controller, which is a lot more comfortable to use than a tiny little Game Boy Advance. Unfortunately, you do need to buy some software, which tends to be a lot more expensive than the actual Game Boy player itself. This is the Japanese software, which is the cheapest route to go down in my opinion. If you have a mod chip, which are about £5 to £10, then you can plug that in if you have some soldering skills, and then you can basically just freeload these Japanese import titles with no extra software needed. If you don't want to go down that route, then you can buy a freeloader, which costs about £10, which is a little disc, and it basically allows you to play your Game Boy games, your Japanese software, sorry. But you need to put the disc in of the freeloader, then take it out, and then put the disc in of the Japanese title. So it gets a little bit fiddly if you want to do that each time. However, it is a much cheaper option, as this is only about £15, and as I said, a freeloader is about £10, so that's about £25, which is probably about $35, whereas the American or PAL software goes for about £30 to £40 and about $60 or something like that. So it's a much cheaper option in my opinion, but it basically allows you to play your Game Boy Advance, your original Game Boy, and then your Game Boy Color games all on your television with stereo sound. So I'm going to hook this up and then I'll show you. So in order to hook it up, you take one of the three covers off the bottom of the GameCube, and then you just place the GameCube on top like so, and it just clips in. There's also some screws on the bottom if you want to tighten them up, and you basically just put your Game Boy games in like so, and then whenever you want to switch them out, there's a little eject button on the side, which just slides the games out, which is quite handy. One of the problems of this is that the cartridge slot is so low down, so if you were going to be trying to take out all the games quite a lot, you might tend to scratch the surface of them, which is kind of why they've implemented this system where you can eject the Game Boy games. You also have got some sort of room on the side here to take the games out. It also has the ports here, which allow you to plug in your extra peripherals that you get with the Game Boy. So as you can see here, they match up the kind of slots where the thing would clip into, and then the input port here. So I'll hook this up to the television and show you. I have it hooked up to my black Japanese GameCube because obviously it doesn't have a region lock for your Japanese titles. But basically, all you do is you take your game, you plug it in. The best games to play, in my opinion, are the NES classics and the Famicom Minis, because it means that you don't actually have to have an NES, yet you can play the best games that were released for it with stereo sounds and a much higher quality, and it also means you don't have to buy an NES because they're quite expensive these days, and to find one in good condition then it's quite rare. Anyway, you plug the game in, turn the GameCube on, and there you go, you're pretty much set to go straight away. So it just turns on just like a Game Boy does, and you can go ahead and play your games. There's lots of games that work really well with this, such as the NES classics as I mentioned. Also games like Mario Super Circuit, they work really well. But yeah, it works really well. As I did mention before, the Game Boy is quite small and it's quite uncomfortable. This is a much more comfortable option. You can use the joypad if you want, just like the D-pad, and you can also use the actual D-pad on here. This doesn't actually do anything. These you can set as quite a few different things. You can set them as start and select, and you can also have them as L and R. This button here turns on the menu system, and there's lots of different things. This is how to eject it. There's a timer. Not entirely sure what this is. If you want to leave a comment, maybe. This is the different button mapping. This is the zooming in and out, and then these are some different kind of color palettes that you can have, and there's fair amount of different and weird ones that you can choose from. This one's actually a GameCube, it looks quite cool. But personally I think the black one's just the neatest. So that's pretty much it for this review. It's obviously a really nice unit to have. If you don't even want to play the Game Boy games, just to have it on the bottom of the GameCube looks really nice in my opinion. One thing that I think would be quite a cool thing to try, which I may try if you guys want to see it, is if I plugged in the Game Boy link cable that plugged into the GameCube and then put on a game like Four Swords or Animal Crossing or something, then I'd be able to have, if I had two televisions, then I'd be able to play on the GameCube like twice, and if I had like two Wavebirds, then all I need to do would just swap the different channel, and then I'd be able to flick in between the two, and it'd probably be quite weird. Maybe if I get a couple of comments saying that you want to see that, then I don't think I've ever seen it being done before, so it might be quite fun to try. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. I don't really know what to upload, but my first video got 300 odd views, which was really awesome. And thanks very much for the feedback. I've had quite a lot of feedback on some Reddit forums as well, which is really awesome, and I've also gained a fair amount of subscribers. So thanks very much for watching. This has been the Game Boy player for the GameCube, and I'll catch you in the next video.